Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set in darkness in Dublin, Meiji Ascension venue. Tonight, we set the scene with Georgie Westbrook and Theodis Crane, as both have conveniently gone at a similar time to the Green Dragon to have a dinner. Yep,
Dinner?
get something to eat.
I mean, sure, yes. Yeah. Georgie is in the Green Dragon. Dressed pretty much the way she looks in the picture, with like the flannel shirt and stuff. She's looking like she just stepped out of bed. There's a smell of alcohol sort of surrounding her, which is kind of, standard with her. And she is sitting at the bar and just orders her first beer. Just, cheap beer. Just beer.
Theodis is just ordering soft drinks and juice and squash because he is vanilla. He is a vanilla boy.
Aww.
But as he dawdles on in, something that walks at about the same pace he does is is a very it's almost it's almost spherical, just in terms of how fluffy it is, but it's about the size of a puppy. It's about the size of like uh mature puppy, and just follows behind him, making cute sounds.
Oh, Willow.
Pretty much.
Yay.
And it just follows him, literally going at the same pace he does, and it just consistently makes cute fluffy noises.
I mean, I don't think Georgie really saw Willow uh, last time she saw Theodis because she was a bit busy uh, with stuff. So she'll look up at hearing the Willow sounds, looks around, looks at Theodis, looks down at the puppy sheep, looks back up, frowns, and just kind of questioning points at the little sheep.
Hello.
Hi, I was wondering if I had gone crazy. Do
Oh
you
no,
have
far
a...
from it.
Okay. So, what is it? Is that a dog or
No, it's my familiar.
your familiar? Okay.
It's a sheep. It's not a dog.
Sheep.
Don't be
Sorry. No, I'm not.
don't be
It's
mean
just
to the sheep.
tiny. No, no.
They're adorable.
I mean, yes, it is. It's just,
Lulu.
she'll sort of smile. Ah, fuck it. She'll even lower her hand for, to pet the Wooloo. So, does your familiar have a name?
Um, not really.
Oh, shouldn't you give it a name?
I don't know. It just kind of works.
Okay. I suppose if it works, then it works.
So Don't really need to. It's okay. I'm sure it will come up with its own name. I'm sure it already has one.
You just kind of need to find it out.
Yes.
Okay. So, how have you been?
Good. Good. All things considered. I just came out after doing some studying and finishing up a short ritual to help us in the fights ahead.
Right.
Oh yeah, don't pop the cane now. Don't. That's a thing now.
Why would I?
It's just no. It's not that you would. I'm just saying as a point of friendly warning.
Oh, okay.
Uh, just in case you're more likely to do it on accident than anything else. I don't see why you do it, but yeah.
Do you mind sitting down, like here, or you know? I
Sure,
mean,
we can. We'll just go to a table. Need to get
uh,
something to eat, anyways.
eat. Oh, right. Yeah, maybe. Liquids, food works. Mm, Sort of getting used to the fact that we don't actually need to pay here. It's remarkable, but yeah, I could eat something. Food is a thing. Uh, Sustenance, yay.
Oh, pardon, sorry.
Uh, just that food is fine. Yeah, you
What
know,
food is fine?
any food really. I'm not picky.
I mean, I can. Is there anything you'd prefer?
Uh, did I have like a menu or something?
Yeah, I think they got one right here. It's a, I don't know, it's a typical Irish
hmm I mean,
restaurant menu, I guess.
so what would you be having then?
Oof. I could probably have something meaty.
Like steak and fries or something?
Likely.
I mean, is steak any good here?
Oh, yes, it's actually very good here.
Okay, sure. I'll have the same then.
Awesome. He won't say awesome. He'll say splendid because he's more posh than me.
Georgie just kind of looks and then it's like, yeah, cool. Because Georgie's not posh. So, how have you been? Oh, I already asked that. um, right.
Well, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a while.
I'm busy, really. It's I now added toilets to my cleaning schedule. Actually, I think it's an upgrade. Actually, Lord Saisho did start training me. Uh,
Who started training you?
Lord Saisho.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I don't really am deserving of such an honor, but Speaking of which, I do owe you and several others an apology for that. I don't know what came over me. I was completely out of line, and
Oh no,
I
that's fine. That's
can
fine.
assure you it won't happen again.
Oh no, it's not an issue.
I mean, I embarrassed you guys. You had to step in.
Not really. Besides, if my ego were that fragile, I'd have never followed you to begin with. Yeah, I should be thanking you, really. It's how I got to know my fluffy little friend over here.
Oh, really? I didn't
He
know.
pats the wheel and it goes woo woo and shake and it kind of rustles.
I I was in a yeah. I didn't see him there. I'm really sorry. Sorry, little sheep thing.
It affectionately rubs your leg with its wool and it
She'll
bubbles.
pat it.
Ophelia seems, how to say, endlessly perplexed by this creature.
I think that's the most posh way you can say that. Yeah.
This
So,
thing, this thing puzzles him to an immense degree. Yes, you started walking, and it started. Well, I just found me as I followed you down the road. It was quite interesting, really. Still yet to find out why.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could use some softness in your life. Like, I mean, I don't know, man. Why do good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people, or the other way around? Good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. It's sort of karma, you know.
Well,
Uh, I guess.
I don't really. I mean, I guess I could be considered very prickly, but
Well, maybe the universe tries to tell you to soften up. I don't know.
this is a very strange partnership. It does think very fluffy thoughts. It is true.
And you've grown sort of attached to it.
I mean, it's not like I have a choice anyway.
I mean, there's always a choice, I guess. I mean,
Well, why he he picks up the fluffy sheep, and, and he says, "Why would I want harm it? That seems very mean."
well, yeah. So obviously,
Ooh.
maybe you need to, I don't know, like maybe you either deserve it. It's like, you know, I don't know, man. I'm not used to the universe paying back to you. But maybe it's either you deserve it or it is a lesson for you.
I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually.
It's an interesting conundrum, really, why we get the things that we get on our path. People tend to say that you get on your path what you need. So I suppose you need some affection and love.
Oof. Is the universe trying to tell me I'm deficient in those things? That seems rather harsh.
I'm not trying to tell you anything. I mean, are you?
No, I've never. I don't really know. Well, I've been always more obsessed. Well, obsessed, focused with uh, understanding than anything else. Less so social relationships and dynamics. But it's
Mm,
not like I considered them irrelevant.
well, maybe you need to refocus, learn from those experiences. Like, I mean, I'm trying to sound all profound here, but I really don't have a clue what I'm talking about, let's be honest.
Hmm. Put it in a fortune cookie and I may read it.
Uh, I'm not a good chef, like,
Theatre sings on this. It brings up an interesting point. How to create food with magic.
I mean, I suppose that's not that hard.
I suppose it would be life?
Wouldn't you have live food at that point?
Matter?
Yes?
Well, it would be organic matter, right?
Yeah, but it's not exactly alive.
And I guess it would just be matter.
Then again, if you would create veggies, I don't know, man. Maybe even entropy to make sure that the cow is dead. I don't know.
Well, in any case, I'm sure I'll find out the purpose behind this soon. Although,
Sure.
I've never really been much of a believer in fate, of all things.
I mean, you're someone who believes in creating their own fate?
I am very much someone who believes you get what you earn.
How's that not fate?
Fate is predetermined.
I mean,
You can't choose fate. Fate is something that, regardless of the choices you make, regardless of the effort you put into something, it will always wind up the same.
mm,
There is an end point, a fixed end point, or a fixed turning point, but it's always fixed.
if you would see fate like a net woven around worlds, then you walk a strand, you get to a knot, you get to go into 3 directions. Imagine a million people doing that, all walking a net of fate, and it's not completely predetermined.
I wouldn't call it fate then.
Would you call it?
If as you describe life as a series of pathways that lead to different destinations, then it is not fate. It would be freedom. Fate is, but that word itself is too vague, but fate is defined by the fact that it is heavily fixed in place. I suppose one could have multiple fates.
Like one has multiple futures.
But there's still a limited number of fates. To have infinite fates renders the definition of fate meaningless. In fact, it contradicts the very definition. It cannot exist at that point. Otherwise, we're simply redefining the word.
Maybe the word is in need of redefining.
Perhaps. That I could get on board with. I have used the power of fate in the past, I just don't really appreciate its presence in general. I
Maybe
don't
fate
like
is
the
just
idea
that.
that things are destined to happen, even if they work out in the end.
I mean, maybe fate is just like one of those things. Like, there's a big red buzzer. Fate knows that someone will press the buzzer, and then X will happen. But depending on who is going to press the button, it could be X, Y, or Z.
That's
But the
just
button will be
planning.
pressed. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't have a deep enough understanding of the universe to know if things are being planned or
I
not.
suppose. Although I suppose many religious folk refer to their deities having a grand plan.
Yeah, I always tend to reply to that I must have a very sick sense of humor then.
Hmm. Something about that amuses Theodis. Which is ironic, I guess, considering she just said must have a sick sense of humor. Oh, chuckle. um,
She just looks at him, waiting a few seconds, whether he's gonna explain the chuckle or not.
I never got the chance to ask, although I doubt I'd get a satisfactory answer. The powers that be don't really seem very interested in self reflection. This doesn't surprise me.
I mean, why would you if you're almighty? Wait, you never got a chance to ask?
Hmm. At some point, I might bring that issue to a higher figure. I wish to hear their justification proper for it. Because I understand that they largely see more than we do, but honestly, one must look at the state of the world and understand that something is not quite right here.
I mean,
The fate indicates an intent, and that is concerning.
not if you view this as hell.
And that would imply, but if that was fated to be, then that would imply fates and the ones who created it are an inherently or have become a very malicious force.
Not if it's a test.
No, this is still highly malicious, test or not. To say this is a test, that is all of the suffering and cruelty purely exist to determine worth. I could make that same justification for many things, for many cruelties, for many atrocities. They're just tests to determine something, to measure something by some arbitrary metric. But this is an excuse for that would be nothing more than an excuse for malicious behavior. And frankly, in our world, there is at least the pretense of accountability and reprimanding for such behavior. Obviously, not not always, and many times not in practice.
Hmm. With a sick sense of humor, this could definitely be a test. On a scale that we can't understand or can't understand yet.
In which case, the test is pointless, or at least from my perspective, because I don't
Mm,
understand it. If
well,
one cannot understand the every test we have is clearly defined in some fashion or another. When we take
yeah.
exams, we know what the pass score is. We know what the subject is. We know what we're meant to do. We know that we're meant to resolve problems. We don't specifically know what the questions are, but we have a general idea of what we're doing.
When you were a child and you learned how to read, you knew you were gonna learn how to read. You knew that people got or determined value to letters, words, syllables, sentence, whatever. It doesn't mean you understood its function fully, not as much as you do now. Back then, you may have thought it was silly. Why would you even have a name? I mean, just saying. maybe the world outside was more than interesting, and you didn't even want to be inside and learn how to write your own name, because why would it matter? A lot of people actually think that way about mathematics. Like, I've heard a lot of people when I was in, like, secondary school, and they were like, why would I learn math? I will never do anything with it. Yet we were still forced to learn it, just because you don't understand why something is happening, or why you need to do certain things, or need to test certain things, doesn't mean that it's can be, something that's not of importance to you later on when you do gain the understanding.
Maybe, but there's always a measure of understanding as to what one is meant to achieve.
Mm, not when you're a baby. I mean, it, I guess
Well,
compared to if there is a higher power compared to them, we are nothing but maybe
now
even less than babies.
this is interesting. This is an interesting subject because before I became a mage, I was a hardline empiricist. Obviously, with my awakening, I have come to learn that empiricism is actually not entirely accurate at all. In fact, it would appear that we return to some sort of abstract cycle when we die and reincarnate in some fashion. Now, I don't know how true this is, given that I know that ghosts exist and they seem outside of this cycle in some sense, as they do not return to life or reincarnate, they simply seem stuck. And then there are the ones known as kindred, who are undead and again seem outside of this cycle. And then there are also mages. This cycle seems wonderfully flawed. There's a lot of exceptions to the rule. Now I think about it. But I'm going off on a tangent. What I meant to say was is that it does not appear that empiricism was actually accurate. We do not start as tabula rasa. In fact, it appears quite the opposite. That all of us are reborn with some degree of innate understanding from our previous lives.
So basically, we continue the cycle until we fully understand the cycle, and then we move on.
Does that mean that kindred and ghosts have moved on?
Or they're stuck.
Mm,
Could be either or.
ghosts, maybe. Kindred, oh, vampires is what they call themselves, kindred. Um, kindred are neither living nor dead, so I wouldn't necessarily consider them stuck, more or less outside the cycle completely.
I mean, if the cycle was filled with water, some water would spill over it as the cycle turns and turns.
I believe I may have missed the point on that one. Sorry, I've never been particularly good with metaphor.
All I mean is that when you have a test, you'll always have people failing, and sometimes not due to their own fault, because you could simply be pushed out. I don't know.
If that is the case, then I would argue that the test is failing the students.
Perhaps so, but
Or the
as long
lessons.
as the majority still succeeds, I mean, the education system was never like, fail proof. There were always people falling out of like a educational system.
To such a vast extent, though, I
Mm,
must question that.
compared to everything succeeding, I don't know, man.
given the current state of affairs, I'd hardly consider the world to be succeeding. It's about to end.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that to really argue about it. I don't know.
Oh no, I'm just somewhat. To an extent, I understand why greater powers do not decide to intervene in our affairs. After all, it is oh so easy to become a source of dependence,
Yeah,
or to do more harm than good. Then again, with great power comes, well,
sure, Spidey.
that's not what I mean. Power that is not used is wasted on those that possess it.
You think so?
Yes. Now,
So
this
the
isn't. Please go ahead.
no, I was just thinking like all these countries with nuclear weapons is all power that's not being used. Would that all be wasted in your book? Because I think it's a good thing that it's not being used. But hey, who am I? You know?
But the power of nuclear weaponry is being used. It is what has prevented the world from ending. Your example is actually an interesting one because it simultaneously challenges the point while proving it. I guess you could consider in fact, actually, I believe you could consider it the exception that proves the rule.
Mm.
Because it is the very power, the soft power, the leverage granted by nuclear weaponry that has enabled the nations that possess them to prosper and succeed militarily, and in many cases diplomatically as well. Of course, nations are complex beasts, and this is an oversimplification, but you understand my point.
I mean, sure, but then again, the power of the nuclear weapon isn't its intimidation scale.
No, but that is an aspect of it. I'm not advocating a total lack of restraint. Obviously, if I didn't, I would be throwing fireballs at the local passers-by right now, and I'm not doing that. But for one to possess so much power and simply refuse to use it, particularly when it may be needed, or when it is needed, when it may make a genuine positive change without overriding
I mean,
the struggles of others, that to
it
me
doesn't matter to them. Because obviously, it matters to us. Something that threatens to destroy our world.
is. But that is part of the problem. Doesn't that showcase a remarkable lack of empathy?
I mean, what can I say? God is dick.
I mean, wouldn't that indicate psychosis, sociopathy?
I mean,
Granted, when you have that much power,
I was gonna say,
I wouldn't necessarily be surprised by the power involved possessing a degree of egomania, but
I mean, not
still,
just that. Can you imagine some like being there and never have anyone on your level to conversate with or sorry to
still,
converse with?
there is a way to use one's power without necessarily overriding the struggles of others, and that to me is what power should be used for. Power should be applied. That's what that is. Power is nothing. Power is literally defined as nothing more than the capacity to act, to do. The more power you have, the more things you can do.
Can do. That doesn't mean should do.
No, but there is a time and a place for almost anything.
I suppose.
And if strength is not applied then what is the point in possessing it? At least share the nature of it so one may impart understanding. I can understand why one does not wish. Again, I'm not an advocate of a lack of. I'm not advocating anarchy. I would understand why an individual does not use the fullest extent of their power all the time. We see this every day in our society.
Actually, our society is a great example of why this might be something that we cannot understand yet. Cold as hell. If you look at, like, take the president of the United fucking States.
Mm-hmm.
They need to make decisions. Now, a lot of people, especially I guess people who are not like in the city or, are not like extremely well educated or things like that, they don't understand the decisions being made. All they see is the results. And they don't like the results, so they complain. Just because we don't understand what's going on doesn't mean that we don't have a greater part to play, or that, we have to pay a higher tax rating at this point because XYZ.
No, but the problem with that example is that one does have, in generally, not always, but generally, this is true for the majority of the population. They have the tools to acquire that understanding. Obviously, not all of it, but most of it. And there are those who can acquire the fullest extent of it. But one doesn't even need the fullest extent of the understanding to understand why many of these decisions get made. The problem with this concept taken to a metaphysical cosmic level is that there is that understanding is seemingly actively denied. I say seemingly because I am not so great in my understanding to suggest that it cannot be granted, given, or obtained in some fashion. Perhaps as I grow in power, I will obtain this understanding. Whether it will change my view or not, however, I'm somewhat skeptical.
I mean, as a kid, you thought Santa Claus existed.
Yes.
You thought that would never change.
Mm,
If someone told you, if your 4-year-old you, that Santa Claus wasn't real, it was just made up.
we all change, but some of our views stick with us.
Yeah. What view stuck with you from like your 4-year-old?
I would say not much, but then again, I'm not a 4-year-old.
No, because your brain is developed.
And I do expect, as my understanding develops, for my views to shift somewhat, but a lot of what I currently perceive is not particularly well justified. There would need to be some very stark changes to my understanding
Mm.
for me to accept this. I've heard of this cycle. It does not satisfy me at all. I see it has done about as much harm as it has done good.
Maybe it's actually not about being in the cycle, but breaking eventually out of the cycle.
Then the cycle is a prison, and therefore is a net negative that should be destroyed.
There you go.
Yes, but then again, now it's an ethical argument. We have been placed within a prison. When I find the warden, I will kill them. I will not sit there as they congratulate me on finding my way out of their putrid maze. I will destroy them for committing a horribly cruel act upon me and everybody else on this world. Because it implies this is nothing more than a game to them.
Mm.
And even if it's not, if they do ascribe some sort of serious value to this, then, well, that is arguably even worse. It implies such arrogance as to believe they are 100% morally in the right. And not even 100%. They don't even have to believe it 100%, but it's still atrocious. It's still something that I can't think of many things that honestly deserve death other than the odd practical necessity, and I've only seen that occasion once.
I think there are many people who deserve death, many beings who deserve death. Just
Hmm.
don't quite sure know if it's good enough. Might not be.
Well, a good example of this dichotomy, because I do understand it's not as simple as I make it out to be. Obviously, I am obviously an individualist, which is why I hold many of these views. I place personal choice and individual potential above that of the greater cohesiveness of my environment.
So basically, the needs of the one are bigger than the need of the many.
Not always. I will still be risking my life to save the world.
Would you destroy Dublin? Kill everyone inside it, if it would mean that you would be able to save the entirety of Ireland?
I would look for an alternative path, but rarely, well, the one time I did, it did not work out. But to answer your question, if I was left with that rather horrid choice, well, I'm not entirely sure. I suppose it depends on how Dublin reacts. If it's reacting to any degree like how we're reacting, then perhaps Dublin should live.
And the entirety of Ireland would be destroyed.
I suppose that depends on what Dublin does.
It would be literally you with two buttons, and you'd have to press one of them.
Oh, I've heard of this. This is the this is a very traditional dichotomy. Oh no, in that case I'd rampantly cheat.
That's fair.
There are a few cheats to that dichotomy. Then again, it's very old.
I didn't claim to be very good at these things.
I never liked that question because it prevents what is ultimately a false choice. It ultimately is a false dichotomy, and I am I'm a very argumentative man, as you've already figured out.
You do seem to have an answer to everything.
Well, I suppose I'm a very traditional hermetic in that sense.
I mean, everybody has to do something, right?
Hey, as I said, someone should always be doing something with their power. Even if it's nagging at an Akashic. Usually the other way around. Usually you're telling us to hold back more.
I mean, I can say that, but will you listen to me?
Probably not.
There you go. There's no point in saying it, and you already know what I was going to say, so.
So it depends.
I mean, you even said so yourself. With great power comes la-di-da.
It's an interesting, because I can look back on history and one could very easily claim it as those who have used their powers in much the way I advocate that has resulted in the world degenerating to the extent that it has.
I mean, on the other hand, if it wasn't for Second World War, we wouldn't have found out the amazing medical properties of penicillin.
Well,
I'm not saying that World War II is good. Like, don't get me wrong, it was terrible.
Wasn't it World War One?
Not too.
Now I'm. No, it was discovered in 1928.
Huh.
And it was being used to treat infections in 1942. Oh yeah, I guess it was World War Two then. It was discovered prior to that, but it found use in World War Two. So
Huh.
you're correct. Yay! Wikipedia is my friend.
The thing
Well,
is, it doesn't cancel out the evil, but
oh
also a lot of lives were saved because of it.
no, I'm not sure. I've never ever been an advocate of the sort of balanced scales philosophy of whether your good outweighs your evil or your evil outweighs your good. Ultimately, we all do good and bad things. One doesn't necessarily cancel out each other. Obviously, they account for each other in various ways, but they don't. Morality cannot be measured. Oh, I suppose it could be if one has the will and the power, but
I mean, you're looking at it with a personal scale within yourself, and sure, that would be idealistic. But if you look at the grand scheme of things as an all-powerful being, hmm, I mean, would you look at ants and figure out, oh, does that ant have a balance within it? No. You might look at the colony and be like, oh, that's okay, that's pretty balanced.
hmm. Well, one ant is about to kill the one looking down on it, so
Or attempt to.
ironically, the rest of the ants are trying to stop it. Then again, it destroys the colony.
Yeah, well, I can't have everything.
I think the main problem is what will take the colony's place is the concern for many.
Hmm.
Because I have seen hell. I have seen empty. I have no. This is not true. I have not seen hell. I've seen something far worse than that. We do not want to go to that place.
I mean, I've seen many places that I can compare to as hell, or hell on earth, or whatever you want to describe it, but I think everybody ultimately creates their own hell.
That's an interesting statement.
We're all living in our own prisons, we're all trying to break free. Whether it's prison of the mind or the physical one. Or both. It's usually both. Some are not trying to break free though, some are just trying to indulge in it. I shall order another beer.
Ironic.
Why?
That's just. You seem very fond of the drink.
I mean, I'm sure you won't have an issue with it.
No, but it's not about me. After all, we're just talking about indulgence.
I mean, what can I say? A little pleasure on this fucked up place. As you said, we all have our demons to fight.
This is true. And fair. So I hope you won't be too angry when I question whether or not you're actually fighting it.
There are many ways of fighting.
Please, I'm all ears.
Really? How do you fight your demons then?
Well, the last time I ran into a literal outsider demon and I ran away screaming. But ended
What,
poorly.
what did you do? Hold a mirror to it?
I wish it were that simple. No, these things are not so easily dealt with, unfortunately.
I can only imagine.
But they can be beaten. My experience for one who has started all of this. That experience scarred my mind. So now whenever I look at these things, all I can do is, well, just looking into the dark scares me now. Just thinking about it, I hate it.
Well, I'm sorry.
Nothing to be sorry for, is my problem. I will defeat it one way or another. And if I do not, I will die on my feet.
And you're a strong man.
Cannot afford to be anything less. Not when the world's about to end.
I suppose. But no, I am really. I know it sounds weird, and but I am sorry for you. It's scars of the mind are often harder to deal with than scars of the flesh.
And that is why mastering my powers, that is why understanding as much as I can about myself and the world is such an imperative, so then I can eventually defeat it. I
Sure
will
you will.
literally vomit it up and cut it down if I have to.
I saw you as headstrong, but not necessarily as a fighter. I stand corrected.
As you said, there's many ways to fight.
True.
I am. You're right not to see me as a fighter. I am not in a conventional sense, at least. If you were to challenge me to a barroom brawl right now, you'd have me down in 2 seconds. But
I mean, that would hardly be a fair fight.
give me a chance to wave my stick around right here, and well, suddenly things get interesting.
I don't want to know anything about your stick waving around, sir.
I did just this. He points to his walking. This one.
I knew what you meant. But let me have my own little sixth sense of humor.
Fine. So,
So,
having successfully moved the conversation away from your personal problems, will you be there at the final battle? Oh, Lord Sisha will be.
I would help Lord Sideshow in whatever manner is best. If that means cleaning the toilets, I'll be there cleaning them. You will probably need them.
You're probably not going to be doing that, to be fair. You're probably going to be slaying monsters. I intend to be there in spite of my rather inconvenient affliction to help unweave a ritual that Aisha has cast over the place.
I don't think my strength lies in disrupting a ritual, really.
We are mages, we're masters of ritual.
This is true, but I've seen the mages around here, and I am a pretty sorrowful, exclusive one.
I don't believe that.
I mean, believe all you want.
I mean, I will. Things I believe tend to turn out true, one way or the other.
Now, what do you believe, Theodis Crane?
Well, based on my admittedly lackluster understanding of you, as I have not known you long, I would say that you are a remarkably brave and conscientious young woman. Strong, right thinking. Admittedly, time has taken its toll on you in ways that have been less than charitable to the average person. But as you yourself have stated, that does not deprive you of your qualities.
You always make me blush.
Well, I've been known to be a very suave and charming individual. A gentleman of class, if you will.
I can see that.
For the record, he isn't quite that arrogant. He's not. He is actually being sarcastic about that.
I
He's
mean,
not that
yeah.
arrogant. Mainly because I would need to take a derangement. I would need to take narcissism as a flaw if I were to mean it. There's arrogance, and then there's oh, you're an Oratate 8 Hermetic. Please take the narcissism flaw. I do not have that, so no, he's definitely far too assured of himself, but he's not that far up his own ass.
I mean, that doesn't mean that she can't push it a little bit.
This is true. Yes, you're a lady of many qualities and many strengths, and you should pride yourself on them more.
Well, I wasn't exactly thinking about me when I asked you the question, but hey, I got that answer now. There's not enough beer in this bar to block that out of my memory.
Well, excellent.
Just have to go for stronger measures then. And she'll order whiskey.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
She actually smiles as he said that.
You know, I could be a proper knob and just make it so that it just lingers in your mind for the next 24 hours if I wanted to.
I would prefer if you didn't.
I know, I could be mean, I will not be mean.
Good.
Never actually done that, to be honest. Never used the power of mind to do such a thing. And again, is there really much need?
I feel it would be rather intrusive.
Hmm. Yes, yes it is. Remember that statement. That will become important later.
If you say so.
Um,
Why?
I think if I told you... Well, I know if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. I think if I believe if I told you, it would actually do more harm as of now. That won't help you now. It will help you later. It won't help you now.
Are you just trying to be very hermetic about this?
I feel like this is much more Akashic. Well, very straight-faced, straight-laced Akashic of saying, this is not yet your time, young Padawan, but still, it's very obnoxious. I apologize. It's quite stereotyping or tradition right there, but granted, well, Hermetics have a whole young Padawan thing going on as well, I suppose, so I can make fun. But it's a mage thing.
Fair enough.
But it's frustrating because I would like to tell you, just not really in a position to do so.
So you liked it enough to bring it up and to make me curious about what possibly you could mean.
Mm-hmm. Because that will help you.
If you say so.
Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back.
Never been really that curious though.
Well, now you are. And
For
that
now.
means I have imparted my wisdom onto you, and my work here is done.
I see. So you invited me to come over to have dinner with you at this table, just so you could make me curious.
I mean, we could say yes to that. I'd be happy to say yes to that. It makes you sound very. It makes me sound far more talented at this than I actually am. So yeah, sure, why not?
You're an interesting person.
Hmm.
She'll pat Wooloo again.
I suppose I am, but only because of the company I keep. And he will pat for Wooloo, and it will go Wooloo. It's
Now you're the one selling
it
yourself
it
short.
it woke up, but it had been sleeping the whole time.
Oh.
It just like it had climbed up on the table and started to nap. And it just kind of makes a little quiet Wooloo sound when you pat it. but it is still very much asleep. It kind of bobbles because its fur is like, it's so floofy that it, when it moves, its fur kind of bobbles up and down. It's kind of like a boy floating in water in that sense. But yes, the Wooloo is very cute and very much asleep. And Theodis is filled with the thoughts of fluffy sheep and fuzziness. And he feels compelled to pat the adorable creature. All hail sheep. Yes.
So yeah,
I should probably get going now that I have clearly done my job and imparted great wisdom.
I mean, I would be a poor protector of the innocent if I didn't come and keep an eye out where you walked.
Oh, you can be my second sheep buddy.
I am not fluffy enough for that.
Oh, don't worry, I can change that.
I'd rather you didn't.
He briefly considers whether to use matter on your clothes.
She's just gonna sigh and drink the rest of the whiskey.
To turn your clothes into wool.
And I think with the two of them, leaving, we can end the scene. Thank you, Play for playing, and watchers for watching, and see you all later. Bye.